Master, what are your impressions of Yun Yanli? The firmament stone questioned. What do you mean? How do you find him as a person? Definitely talented. Are you interested in a man like that? I noticed that you had been stealing some glances at him. Gu Shijiu only replied it with 4 words. You think too much. She was only interested in his purple robe, while the image of his appearance on horseback was rather impactful. She felt that she had seen that before. Master, now that we have made it to heaven, are you at least a bit happier? What do we do next? Happy? Gu Shijiu furrowed her brows into a knot. She did not feel that she was happy. As to what should she do next, she had no idea whatsoever. In her subconscious, she knew that she was in search of something, but still, she was uncertain about what exactly was she looking for. Was she looking for the man in the purple robe? Let's just roam about in heaven. She was walking while sightseeing. The Saha world was somewhat similar to Earth. They were both thronged by crowds. They both had markets and buildings of all shapes. The only thing different from the people's land was that what was sold in the market was spiritual animals, spiritual medicine, spiritual herbs, spiritual rice, spiritual noodles, furniture made of spiritual wood and stones, and some other treasures, such as weapons. The market was full of people, dressed up in all sorts of ways, but with their own distinguishing aura. The color of their attire was assigned according to their level of practice. For instance, a junior immortal would be dressed in light blue, a middle immortal in light pink, and a senior immortal in white. Although their colors were fixed, each of them dressed up in their own manner, making them seem like a sea of blooming flowers. The spiritual powers of Saha world were in fact much richer and purer. Training over here for a day was equivalent to training on Earth for a month. In the Saha world, no one else was dressed in black except Gu Shijiu, the outsider. So as she was walking among the crowd, she was given suspicious glances. It was good that Gu Shijiu was fast. As she got tired of being examined, in just a glimpse of an eye she let herself disappear among the crowd. Master, no one wears black in the Saha world. They all agree that that is the representation of evil. You are an eyesore to them for wearing black. The firmament stone advised. Why don't you change into something else? Gu Shijiu replied rather quickly, according to what you said, black shirts belong to the people from the Devil's Gate? This. I am not quite sure. I have never met anyone from the Devil Kingdom. The firmament stone answered. Gu Shijiu was now sitting on a tree. Looking at the people thronging about beneath her, she was rather indolent. Sensing her lack of vitality, the firmament was rather worried, and suggested, Master, the scenery here is so different from where we used to be. Let's have a look around. Gu Shijiu looked at the people beneath her, and suddenly asked the firmament stone, judging by my external abilities, what color do you think I would be categorized in here? Firmament stone went quiet. It was not certain about the answer either. Its master once had a spiritual power of level 10. Had she not been the future lord at the time, she would immediately be raised to heaven and would become an immortal as well. However, judging by Gu Zijia's external abilities at the moment, even the firmament stone was unable to gauge her abilities. Since right after Di Fui disappeared, she had not had a fight with anyone. Even if she did use her powers, it was all very swift and sudden. Gu Shijiu had not put in her all in a battle for a long time. She probably did not know that whenever she was basking in her new marital affection with Di Fui, he was covertly passing on his external abilities to her, causing her external ability to escalate at a frightening rate. Furthermore, when Di Fui passed on, his spiritual power was transferred into the purple cloud mushrooms that were picked by Gu Shijiu to be refined into pills. The firmament stone had coaxed Gu Shijiu to consume the pills, augmenting her external abilities by several degrees. The current Gu Shijiu was no longer any greenhorn, and her prowess was not too different from that of Di Fuyus in his prime. That was why the firmament stone was unsure of Gu Zijia's level of abilities, not to mention that it was not familiar with the Saha world and was unable to make an assessment. However, it felt that her power should surpass those white-shirt dudes that guided the ascenders in the square and even that of the princess Ya. Purple was the color that could only be worn by royalty here and differed in shade based on status. Princess Ye had worn light purple, while Yun Yanli wore a shade darker. The darker the shade, the higher the status. Gu Shijiu looked down with her head in her hands. In the disarrayed crowd, she did not see anyone else in purple. Is the person she is looking for of royal blood? The Saha world was divided into 9 heavens. Those with the noblest blood lived in the 9th layer, the officials with high status lived in the 8th layer, the lower bureaucrats lived in the 7th layer, while the commoners of the fairy clan entirely inhabited the 6th layer. It goes without saying that the higher the layer, the more condensed the spiritual power. This is the reason why some ascenders are willing to become servants when they reach here. They could live in a place heavy with spiritual power alongside their master. Entry to the 9th layer and 8th layer of heaven is strictly prohibited and can only be allowed through a guide. The square that Gu Shijiu alighted on was on the 6th layer and was basically accessible to all. The layer below that, the 5th, is a no-man's land peopled by the troops of the fairy clan and demons and monsters. The demons dominated the 3rd and 4th layer, while the monsters occupied the 1st and 2nd layer. It is said that several thousand years ago, the fairies, demons, and monsters equally distributed the land and were embroiled in a great war. At some point in the past, the fairy clan became stronger and gradually reduced the other 2 groups' territory to the desolate lands below the 5th layer. Gu Shijiu had stayed here for about a month and had attained quite a clear idea of its structure. She had basically walked around every corner of the 6th layer. She sometimes saw a few people of royal blood who wore light purple robes. Among them, there were some that were debonair and charming, but Gu Shijiu took a closer look at them and found out that they were not the person she was looking for. She sunk into contemplation while tapping the bark of the tree with her fingers. She had heard before that the Emperor Immortal had 2 sons, the younger being Yun Yanli and the eldest being Yun Yanhong. Both of them were figures of magnificence and talent. She had already seen Yun Yanli. Maybe now she should look for Yun Yanhong. Having walked around for so many days, she felt tired and slept beneath the tree. In a daze, she entered an open field of wilderness. Even in her dreams, she seemed to be looking for something. As it was drizzling, she ran into a nearby cave to avoid getting wet. Running without much sense of the ground, she tripped on something and fell on her face. Through the mist, Gu Shijiu saw a small pavilion. A person was sitting there. Her heart skipped a beat. In her subconsciousness, she knew that this person was the one she was looking for and surged toward his direction. Though the pavilion was visibly just a short distance away from her, she could not seem to reach it even after running for hours. She could only vaguely see the figure of the person sitting there, possibly meditating. The person sat there motionless like a Buddha. She could not catch sight of that person's visage, but she could descry a red box situated on top of that person's knees. Because of the distance, she could not make out the exact form of that box, but she could see an emerald green gem glowing on top on its lid. Gu Shijiu stood from a distance and gazed at the small pavilion. She felt that that person was not a human, but a jade statue instead. And that person looked to be holding a bracelet that was shining gold and glimmered faintly with the 7 colors of the rainbow. That person kept on staring at the bracelet in a posture that seemed that it would last till eternity. Gu Zijius suddenly leaped with excitement. Although that person was not wearing purple, her sixth sense told her that that person was the one she was looking for. Hey, who are you? Since she could not run over there, she resorted to shouting instead. That person did not move nor speak and seemed to have no intention of looking at her. Gu Shijiu kept on trying to discern that person's face but to no avail due to the thin layer of mist. She continued to shout at that person but received no response as well. Could that really be a jade statue? Gu Shijiu felt that this scene was vaguely familiar and had an odd sense of déjà vu but could not seem to put her finger on it. The melody of a flute seemed to sound from the distant darkness. The melody was soft and extremely pleasant to the ears. Since she could not run to that direction, she decided to sit on a boulder and listen to the tune. The melody was oddly familiar. Although it was a jolly piece, she felt like shedding tears for some reason. After some time, the melody stopped, and a shroud of mist enveloped her. After the mist dissipated, she could no longer see any trace of the small pavilion and the white-shirt person. She looked everywhere in a daze and found out that she was standing in an abyssal cave. Its interior was enigmatic and haunted by countless noises that resembled the terrifying shrieking of beasts. Where was that white-shirt person? Gu Shijiu felt dismayed. She scanned the surroundings in the cavern but could not find any trace of that person. Could he have hidden inside the depths of the cave? Gu Shijiu pursed her lips and decided to go deeper. From the dark void, a voice began to emerge. Don't persist on looking for him anymore. You have no fate with him. That voice was magnetic. Who are you? Gu Shijiu took the opportunity to ask. That voice just sighed in response. Since it's someone who you don't share a fate with, why bother asking? Who are you? Gu Shijiu pressed on the question. That voice went into silence for a long time. When it began to sound again, it did not answer Gu Zijia's question. Must you really look for him? She must, right? Gu Shijiu felt that she had formed a strong resolve to find that person. She nodded her head in response, I must. Why do you want to look for him? What if he no longer exists or has changed? I'll deal with it once I've found him. Gu Shijiu did not know why she wanted to find that person as well, all she wanted to do was to find him first. To find him, you'll put your life at great risk. Do you really want to find him? I must. Gu Shijiu stated without a trace of doubt. That voice went into silence once again. Just when Gu Shijiu thought that it would not sound anymore, the voice uttered once more. Then you must first find the box in his embrace. Gu Shijiu was taken by surprise. Find that box? Where is that box? She asked. The heavens bestow the fate of marriage upon the land for lifelong love. When the love doth break, the sentiments and box are buried. The voice began to chant a mantra-like speech. Gu Shijiu could not comprehend what the voice was saying. She tried to ask about the meaning behind those words, but the voice had already disappeared. Gu Shijiu chanted the mantra several times. Although she did not understand what it meant, she could memorize it fully. Hey, what should I do after I find the box? She shouted at the void. Master! Master! Wake up! Wake up! The firmament stone suddenly shouted in her head. Gu Shijiu woke up from her dream. She opened her eyes and found out that her back was still leaning against the tree. She had a dream. It was the first time she has had a dream like that over the past few days. She recollected it with a lingering sense of longing. It seems that the person that she was looking for does not only wear purple. In her dream, he was wearing a snowy white garment. She recalled the box that the person had put in his embrace. It was red and embedded with an emerald green gem. What secret did that box contain? Seeing that she has entered a trance-like state, the firmament stone blurted out, Master, what happened? You kept on talking in your dream just now. It was the first time it had heard her talk in her dreams in a while. It was curious about what its master had dreamt. Shut up. Gu Shijiu was exasperated by its nagging and sealed its voice to gain some peace of mind. Just when she was about to sink into contemplation again, she sensed turmoil from below. Someone shouted, the eldest prince has arrived. Gu Shijiu straightened her body. What a coincidence. She was just thinking about looking for the eldest prince just now, and here he is in his full presence. The eldest prince's entourage was extremely large and differed from Yun Yanli's habit of being alone. His presence was accompanied by a sheer number of guards of honor. The fairies playing music, while behind them were an orderly group of fairy warriors. In the middle of the pack was a magnificent shining gold chariot driven by 8 Pegasuses that were accompanied by a large group of guards of honor behind them. The whole entourage traveled in utmost splendor and radiance. The commoners in the market stepped to the side of the street and kneeled down, not even daring to breathe. Gu Shijiu sat idly on the trunk of the tree and contemplated whether she would follow the prince's chariot to catch a glimpse of his appearance. She did not expect that a cold voice would sound from within the chariot when it went past the tree she was sleeping under. Stop! The chariot thereby stopped in its tracks. A fair-skinned hand emerged from the window of the chariot and pointed at the tree Gu Shizhou was sleeping under. Who is over there? Gu Shizhou was caught by surprise. Did he see through her invisibility spell? That prince was really something. With his finger pointed at the tree, all of his servants naturally turned their gaze toward the tree where Gu Shizhou was at. Gu Shizhou wanted to take the leap of faith and reveal herself. However, all of a sudden, there seemed to be some movements in the tree above her. Swiftly, a figure flashed before her eyes and landed before her. My eldest prince brother, it is me. Gu Shizhou was surprised. The man was Yun Yanli. He was hiding on the same tree as she was. When did he come here? Was he here before she came or after? She did not seem to notice his presence at all. The curtain of the carriage was lifted. A handsome and alluring face could be seen behind the window. His beauty alone could bring calamity to the country and people. The man's explicit facial features suited his elfin face, big eyes, double eyelids, and small, cherry lips. The fluid glance in his eyes was attractive. For a woman, beauty as such was enough to overthrow a kingdom. As chance would have it, he was born to be a man instead. She could tell his gender from his headgear and his identity. However, he had a typical woman's face, but his voice was deep and grim. His appearance was somewhat odd. Gu Shizhou did not feel quite right about the man. If she had not known about the identity of the eldest prince, she would have thought that the prince was actually a princess in disguise. Since Yun Yanli had uncovered himself, there was no need for her to disclose her presence. A look at the eldest prince was enough to confirm that he was not the man that she was looking for, even though he was wearing a robe of very intense purple. The color was close enough to the robe worn by the man in her dream, but she was sure that he was not the one. My third brother, what are you doing so secretly on the tree? Upon hearing the question, Yun Yanli frowned. The Emperor Immortal had 2 sons and 2 daughters. Yun Yanli was the third among his siblings, so Yun Yanhong, the eldest prince, would often address him as his third brother. Smilingly, Yun Yanli answered with great composure, my eldest prince brother, this is a complete misunderstanding. I was here in the market and got tired after a while, so I decided to take a rest on the tree and fell asleep without even knowing it. If you had not called out to me, I would still be asleep. His explanation seemed legitimate. Yun Yanhong took his words with a grain of salt. He then observed the top of the tree, but could not see anything suspicious. This time, he took his remarks more seriously and nodded. You seem to have a lot of free time. Why didn't you take any guards with you? Yun Yanli responded with a smile, I am only here for a walk. Moreover, this land belongs to the Celestial Kingdom. What should I be afraid of? Don't be so careless. Recently, the aggressors from the Devil Kingdom look like they are ready to make trouble. You are alone and single-handed. You have to be careful, so they do not stand a chance to plot any vicious plan against you, Yun Yanhong continued scornfully. Thank you for your kind words, my eldest prince brother. I will be careful. The pair of brothers had a brief conversation. Soon, Yun Yanhong's carriage departed and marched across the path. Yun Yanli stood and watched as the carriage slowly moved away. Swiftly with a lunge, he was back on the tree. This time, he made his appearance right in front of Gu Shizhou. Miss Gu, what a coincidence. We meet again. Idly, Gu Shizhou sat comfortably on the tree. This is not a coincidence. You have been following me, Gu Shizhou answered nonchalantly. Yun Yanli was astonished. There was a gleam in his eyes. A moment later, he smiled without making any denial. You are indeed a smart lady. However, I have to say that I have not been following you on purpose. I saw you coincidentally in the market and watched as you climbed the tree. I knew you were asleep, so I was worried something bad might happen. I had to follow and watch out for you. Nonetheless, I have opportunely saved you from embarrassment. How will you thank me? Gu Shizhou answered with a smirk, should I take you out for a meal? Yun Yanli seemed very delighted at her offer. I shall kindly accept your offer. Actually, Gu Shizhou could tell that she had continuously been followed in the past few days. Moreover, different people would follow her each day. Apparently, they must have acted on someone's instigation. After all, she was only here for fun. She was open and poised, so she was not worried about being followed. She continued her daily routine as usual as if they never existed. Undoubtedly, they must be Yun Yanli's men. She knew that he must be suspicious of her identity. He must be worried that she might be a spy from the Devil Kingdom. He made his appearance in the end. Did he trust her now? Or was he taking the matter personally to find out about her identity? Gu Shizhou did not mind at all, regardless of his intention. There would always be a way to deal with him. Moreover, he was a prince in the Saha world. There must be something that she could use about his knowledge of the place. Gu Shizhou took him to the biggest restaurant in town. The food was obviously full of spiritual power. It offered good enhancement to improve one's spiritual power, though was very expensive. Also, the currency used in the restaurant was not in silvers, but a type of spiritual stone. Fortunately, Gu Shizhou was very capable at making money. In the past month, she managed to earn some money during her stay. It was not a problem to buy a meal for this prince. During the meal, Yun Yanli finally asked her, Miss Gu, are you looking for someone? Gu Shizhou did not hesitate and answered frankly, yes, I am looking for someone. Yun Yanli volunteered personally to acquaint her with the search. He asked about the person's characteristics. Gu Shizhou pinched her lips into a line before she answered. I only know about a man who wears purple robes and nothing more. Yun Yanli was obviously shocked by her reply. He remained silent for a few moments. In the Saha world, only royalty wears purple. Gu Shizhou shook her head in disapproval. The robe that the man wears is bright purple that is somewhat obtrusive. Except for your father, I have met all the other members of the royal family. Yun Yanli took a pause before continuing, in the Saha world, only the Emperor Immortal can wear bright purple. Gu Shizhou was trying to pick up a meatball with her chopsticks when she heard the news. The meatball fell from her grip, followed by her obvious exclamation of surprise. Was the Emperor Immortal the man she was looking for, the man who already had 2 sons and a daughter? Yun Yanli looked at her with confused eyes. Why are you searching for him? Gu Shizhou shook her head to dismiss his doubts. Not for any specific reasons. We used to have some interactions in the lower bound, but then he disappeared so suddenly. How does he look like? Gu Shizhou shook her head again. I do not know. I have lost all memory about him. I can only roughly recall that he used to wear purple robes. I remember nothing more. Yun Yanli heaved a sigh and answered, although he used to wear purple in the lower bound, it does not mean that he would wear the same here. The search will be easier if you can remember his appearance, but everything seems difficult now. I assume that you have also forgotten about his name, haven't you? Gu Shizhou shook her head helplessly. Yun Yanli paused before continuing his question, if you meet again, will you be able to recognize him? I should be able to, Gu Shizhou responded with uncertainty. Yun Yanli thought about it for a moment. Then, he brought up an odd-looking mirror and performed a spell on it. Is he the one? He showed the mirror to Gu Shizhou. Gu Shizhou took a careful look at the mirror and saw a charming man with brightly colored purple robes. His dashing brows complemented the man's beautiful eyes. The man had a straight-edged nose and very defined, plump lips. He moderately resembled Yun Yanli's appearance, but more dignified and commanding. Gu Shizhou dismissed it immediately. It is not him. Apparently, Yun Yanli was relieved to hear her answer. He is my father. His father used to be a man who overindulged in sensual pleasures. Reputedly, he used to take many disguises to the lower bound and developed many intense love affairs. The Empress Immortal was very unhappy about it, but she could not contain her husband. Sometimes, she would rant at her son about her husband, so Yun Yanli was well aware of his father's misbehavior. Gu Shijiu was relieved that he was not the person she wanted to find. The emperor does look very wise and intelligent, Gu Shijiu uttered her compliment. None of them spoke of him again. Gu Shijiu and Yun Yanli continued to have a chat. From the conversation, Gu Shijiu knew that bright purple robes were only restricted to the emperor immortal in the Saha world. The same dress code restriction did not apply to the devil and monster kingdoms. Gu Shijiu was perplexed. Her intuition told her that the man was a celestial being, not a devil nor a monster. She thought about her dreams again and remembered that the man was no longer wearing the same purple robes. Instead, the man was dressed in white. The robes were as white as the snow, the clouds, and the misty fog. Would he be wearing white now that he was in heaven? She asked about the eligibility entitled for the white robes. Yun Yanli sighed. The white robes are reserved for the mighty immortals. As the conversation continued, Gu Shijiu found out that there was a total of 208 mighty immortals in the Saha world. Also, these immortals did not usually stay in the Saha world. Instead, many of them fancied a wandering life, making their homes wherever they were. It was extremely difficult to meet them. Excluding the 15 women from the total, there would still be around 200 mighty immortals left for her to find. Finally, Yun Yanli could not help but suggest, Miss Gu, in my opinion, it is impractical to search for someone based merely on his attire. Try to think more about it. What other characteristics does he have? Gu Shijiu thought about the box that the man held in her dream. After giving much thought about it, she decided to request for a paper and a pen from the restaurant. Swiftly, she drew what she could remember. As strange as it might sound, she could barely remember the man's face, but she clearly saw the box's appearance. She illustrated the picture in her head for Yun Yanli's reference. Yun Yanli examined the drawing carefully, but could not recall anything about it. The man's illustration is too unclear. I can barely see his face. Also, I have never seen this box. However, I can help you to search for it. He kept the drawing. A sudden idea occurred to him. As far as I know, there will be a celestial fruit party the day after tomorrow, at the 8th heaven. It is also a gathering for celestial beings. I believe many mighty immortals will be present. However, you are not entitled to any celestial status, so you will not be able to take part. If you do not mind, you can disguise yourself as my servant and attend the event with me. I know the idea may sound like an insult to you, but... Gu Zijia's eyes shone with hope. It does not matter. I will disguise myself as your servant and check out the event. Yun Yanli was immediately delighted and said, all right. Don't worry, I will not assign you with any lousy jobs even with your disguise. Gu Shijiu appreciated the prince's offer. With his help, many things were made easier. She quickly expressed her gratitude. We have only just met. Why are you so keen to help? She could not hold back her curiosity. Yun Yanli smiled. Do you want the truth or the bureaucratic jargon? The truth, certainly. I have no interest in your sweet words. Honestly, your lone and non-traditional entity had me worried that you might be a spy from the devil and monster kingdoms. I even sent my men to follow your tracks. Now that the evidence has proven that you are innocent, I evince great guilt for what I have done, so I would like to make it up to you. I will help whenever I can. Speaking of which, I would like to ask for a favor. I will be grateful if you can help. Gu Shijiu hesitated no more. What can I help with? Recently, some glorified golden rays were seen, shining through occasionally from the 5th layer of heaven. I assume that a mighty weapon may be coming to life soon. Would you come with me to retrieve the weapon? The 5th layer of heaven was a place without a specific ruler. The celestial, devil, and monster kingdoms all had their respective influences. It was certainly not an easy task to fight for the mighty weapon. Gu Shijiu could immediately understand the difficulties that lied ahead. She knew it would be a perilous journey. I know that many picked troops are under your command. Why don't you lead them there? Yun Yanli dismissed her idea. The celestial and devil kingdoms have both agreed to a truce. If I have an army with me, it will definitely involve the mobilization of the masses and trigger a war between the kingdoms. Therefore, it will be best if I only have a man or two with me. Also, another reason is that the only way to retrieve the mighty weapon is through a woman. That accounted for it. Now that Yun Yanli had made himself clear, Gu Shizhou talked about her conditions frankly with him. She could help him to retrieve the mighty weapon. Regardless of the outcome, Yun Yanli would still have to show her to the 193 Might Immortals, even from afar. Yun Yanli agreed without hesitating. While both of them were still chatting, a sudden gleam of golden ray flashed before the window. The golden ray flashed across and instantly disappeared. Yun Yanli stood abruptly and announced, "The mighty weapon is about to reveal itself. Miss Gu, we have to leave immediately." The fifth layer of heaven was indeed different from the rest of the levels. The intensity of its spiritual power was greatly decreased. The place was filled with large mountains and steep walls of rock. Even the river was muddy yellow in color. The revelation of the mighty weapon would definitely create a stir. Many great leaders across the three kingdoms were alarmed. Gu Shizhou and Yun Yanli saw many people on their way, all from different kingdoms. Yun Yanli was right. Many of them had brought a companion or two along, including a woman. Undoubtedly, Yun Yanli's good looks had attracted many curious eyes of the women along the way. As for Gu Shizhou, she had switched from her usual black dress to a loose, pale white robe that could keep her figure well hidden. With a bamboo hat, she covered her face behind a thin layer of fringed laces. Many were not able to tell if she was beautiful or ugly. However, she still managed to attract a lot of attention. People were curious about her, as she was definitely a lucky woman to have caught the attention of Yun Yanli, the handsome prince. Gu Shizhou could not care less about these curious eyes. She went along with Yun Yanli and headed towards the valley over the great hills. To Gu Zijia's astonishment, the mighty weapon chose her as its master. She was only there to help Yun Yanli in retrieving the mighty weapon without the intention of owning it. The mighty weapon was a rare find, a golden ruler. The golden ruler had a length of 2 feet and was covered with many intricate carvings. The surface glittered with charming gold, glistening with a sense of celestial aura. The edges of the ruler were unusually sharp, like the blade of a sword. It could easily break any weapons into pieces. Gu Shizhou witnessed as the shiny, glamorous ruler swiftly shatter all other weapons. One of them included the famous sword from Yun Yanli, which was also known as Clear Shadow. Clear Shadow used to be an all-conquering weapon, but its strength was completely incomparable to that of the golden ruler possessed by Gu Shizhou. The sword was savagely slashed into 3 different pieces. It made Yun Yanli's heart ache to see such waste. The journey to retrieve the mighty weapon was actually a simple and yet savage battle. Many people tried to rush as quickly as possible to the valley that was already glistening with golden rays. Along the way, they certainly did some tricks to obstruct as many competitors as possible. Gu Shizhou and Yun Yanli were definitely the best team among the competitors. When they joined hands, most of their opponents would either run away or be violently defeated. Among all the defeated competitors were people from all 3 kingdoms. The people of the Celestial Kingdom chose to give up the fight willingly, as their competitor was the prince himself. There was nothing they could do but to give up. However, the same respect was not shown by the people of the Devil and Monster Kingdoms. After taking a few defeats, they joined hands and fought the duo together. These people were no ordinary warriors. According to the ranking of the Celestial Kingdom, these opponents were at least Golden Immortals and above. Some had even achieved the level of a mighty immortal. When these people worked together and raised the siege, it would become a rather difficult battle even for Gu Shizhou and Yun Yanli. Fortunately, the prince's cultivation had reached the level of a mighty immortal. From the fight, Gu Shizhou also realized that her strength was sufficient, even in a foreign land. Her level of spiritual power was comparable to Yun Yanli's, or probably higher. In addition, her battle experience was an advantage. When the real fight began, she commanded many moves and saved Yun Yanli from making a lot of unnecessary mistakes. In the beginning, Yun Yanli was not really sure if he should follow all of her commands, as he was worried that she might take him the wrong way. When he finally tasted the victory made possible under Gu Zijia's lead, he began to trust her completely. Their excellent teamwork had eliminated dozens of competitors along their way. When they finally arrived at the valley, there were only 7 or 8 remaining teams. Those teams were certainly made up of elite fighters. They were equally outstanding in both kung fu and strategy. Seemingly staged, all of them worked together and laid siege to the duo. Apparently, the main reason behind their teamwork was to eliminate the powerful duo first, only then would they compete for the magic weapon among themselves. Under the intense circumstance, both of them had to fight an extremely tough battle against 20 fighters, whose kung fu were well matched. Gu Shijiu made a prompt decision that she would be the one defending the competitors, while Yun Yanli would seize the window and pull the weapon out from the stone. The golden ruler could already be partly seen. To his disappointment, Yun Yanli could not remove the ruler at all. It was like it had completely merged with the stone into one. Yun Yanli's strength was strong enough to lift an entire mountain with his spiritual power, but he could hardly pull the sword out. He was unprepared for the sudden bounce from the power of the ruler. He snapped backward and almost cut himself under his opponent's sword. Luckily, Gu Shijiu was there to pull him back, preventing his flesh from being torn apart. The slight delay gave their opponents the opportunity to make a dash for the ruler. Gu Shijiu was anxious. Quickly, she teleported and grabbed the ruler in her hand right away. She had obviously taken the lead. Others decided to give up their attack at Yun Yanli. Instead, they turned and launched their attacks simultaneously at Gu Shijiu. Without having much thought, she exerted her strength and pulled the ruler out of the rock very easily. Under the gleaming golden light, all the weapons that were aimed at her were immediately shattered into pieces. With a sword in his hand, Yun Yanli rushed to her side to help. Unfortunately, the ruler caused the same damage to his sword without taking any sides. Most of the magic weapons would pick the masters of their choice. Obviously, Gu Shijiu was chosen to be the master of the golden ruler. It was best for others to give up hope of owning it. Despite being unhappy about the result, they were willing to acknowledge their defeat. Since the magic weapon had already chosen its master, there was nothing else they could possibly gain from the place. Thus, all of them left immediately. Gu Shijiu did not really like the golden ruler. She thought that it was too fancy and glamorous, so she preferred something modest. She wished to present the ruler to Yun Yanli as a gift, but Yun Yanli kindly rejected the offer. Shijiu, all magic weapons belong to the ones who deserve them. Now that the weapon has chosen its master, you will be the one who owns it. There is no need to decline it. Gu Shijiu felt the tug of her conscience about accepting the ruler, but Yun Yanli was completely fine with it and did not mind at all about the outcome. Anyway, I am happy, as long as the ruler belongs to a member from the Celestial Kingdom, he responded smilingly. Since he had already made himself clear, Gu Shijiu said nothing more. The most stunning views of the mountain lied within its most adventurous paths, so Yun Yanli suggested that they take a walk to enjoy the scenic beauty. The presence of the magic weapon has proven that the mountain is indeed sagacious. There could be other nice things hidden within its land. We shall look for them as we go, he joked. Gu Shijiu agreed. After the long battle, she was actually a little exhausted. A rest would be very much appreciated. Fortunately, taking a walk was considerably relaxing as well. The lights blazed in the dusking sky. As the darkness slowly took over, the moon appeared 3 times bigger compared to the view from Earth. Misty air floated around the mountains. In twinkling lights, the fireflies sparkled like the stars. The view was rather unique. After the adventure, both of them grew to know each other better. They became close friends. From their conversation, Gu Shijiu was able to find out more. Yun Yanli told her that when the immortalization of the Lord, or the Deity Lord, or the Emperor Lord took place, the heavenly law would allow them to be reborn in heaven. They would reincarnate as mighty immortals right away and be treated respectfully with special honors. Before Gu Shijiu could say anything, the firmament stone was seemingly more eager than her. It blurted out in her head, "Master, try to ask him about Huang Tu to know if he has been brought to heaven." Who is Huang Tu? Bewildered, Gu Shijiu felt that the name sounded somewhat familiar. He used to be my friend's friend. Master, my friend misses him dearly. She is unsure if he has vanished completely after his immortalization. Master, please do me a favor by asking him about the man. Gu Shijiu felt that something was not right. When did he immortalize? She was determined to find out more. I am not sure. Master, please ask about him first. Gu Shijiu asked Yun Yanli about the man. It was obvious that he was well aware of the names of the present mighty immortals. He simply shook his head to dismiss the name. No, the man does not exist. He then continued, Shijiu, not all guardians of the earth deserve to be brought back as mighty immortals in heaven. The rebirth comes with strict conditions. If they have previously violated a rule or two, their immortalization will be final. They will vanish in the vast wilderness, with no possible existence elsewhere. Otherwise, there will not only be 200 mighty immortals in heaven after so many years. The firmament stone was shocked. Di Fui had acted against the heavenly law so many times when he was alive. The heavenly laws meant nothing to him. He would have acted against the heavenly laws even more if it were not for the sake of Gu Zijia's well-being. A man like him would never be allowed to come alive in heaven. It seemed like Di Fui had truly immortalized. He was gone, eternally. It was a shame that Gu Shijiu spent so much effort searching for a man that no longer existed. She was doing so even though she had lost every memory of him. The firmament stone observed Gu Zijia's impassive expression upon hearing the news. Apparently, she had no idea what the news actually meant to her. Was she still going to meet all of the mighty immortals? She was not aware that the man was not among the mighty immortals. It was fortunate that she had completely lost her memory of him. Otherwise, the news would definitely be a hard blow to her. As their journey continued, they could see a temple from afar, or more precisely, a building that resembled the structure of a temple. Concrete walls of dark purple jade surrounded the building. Purple bamboos environed the yard, making the place gloomy and mysterious. To her surprise, there was a temple in a place so remote and obscure. People from Earth built the temples to worship all kinds of majestic beings. Who would the people from heaven worship? Yun Yanli's expression turned serious, all of a sudden. Shijiu, we shall go and pray. Who are we worshipping? The heavenly order. Gu Shijiu was astonished. As far as she was concerned, the heavenly law was the ultimate guide to maintain the order of basically everything in the world. The law had governed the Earth's rotation on its axis and maintained the laws of the universe. How could something as abstract as the law be worshipped as a god? Out of curiosity, she stepped into the temple. There were some words carved on the door, stating the unpredictability of the heavenly laws. The words were colored with gold, with a font of vigorous touches and fine strokes, making it appear swift and yet fierce. She could feel a sense of amazement about the place as if she was about to enter the vast universe. The first thing that she could see in the temple was a statue. She was utterly astonished as she stood before the statue. Unlike the usual statues, the one that she saw had an odd appearance. Its body was a union of 4 different men. The one on the front was wearing entirely purple, with a mask that resembled the shape of a fox's face. The color of the mask was vividly in red, concealing his face. She could only see his narrow eyes like he was smiling. The one on the left was dressed in white. His face was covered with an odd-looking mask that resembled the eyes of a fox. She could only see his lips that were perfectly angled. He looked as cold as marble. The one on the right was dressed in red robes. As usual, he was also wearing a mask, but it was in silvery white color. His entire face was covered. As red as the fiery flames, he possessed a captivating sense of charm. The one behind the statue was in complete black. As the dark clouds, the mask on his face was pitch black as well. In his hand, he looked as though he was trying to perform a spell that could unleash fatal destruction upon the world. The structure of the four men was as strange as it seemed. Yun Yanli was already on his knees, bowing his head in prayer. Gu Shijiu stood gazing at the statue, completely absorbed in her own thoughts. The statue came as a shock to her. She could tell that the statue meant something as her heart slowly ached. The statue was made from a precious gem of 4 colors. The craftsmanship was intricate with fine distinctions. Even the robes were vividly manipulated to be as lifelike as possible. While Yun Yanli was praying, she proceeded to observe the statues carefully on her own. Although all of the statues were wearing a mask, she could tell from their figures that they were not depicting the same man. Is the heavenly law made up by these 4 men? She could not help but question the firmament stone. The firmament stone was obviously lost in thought, as it completely ignored Gu Zijia's question. Gu Shijiu knocked it gently. Are you lost? Why didn't you answer me? The firmament stone finally reacted. Master, the heavenly law is the law of the universe that is formed naturally. Logically speaking, the heavenly law should not possess the look of a man. I do not know why it is depicted as such. Aren't you the messenger of the heavenly law? Don't you know what it is? Master, I only receive its instructions occasionally. I certainly do not know where it comes from or what it is. The firmament stone was like a device that was connected only to the frequency of the heavenly law. Moreover, it did not know about heaven any better than her, so Gu Shijiu decided to ask nothing more from it. She waited for Yun Yanli. When they left, she asked, is the heavenly law made up of 4 men? Yun Yanli shook his head in disapproval. No, the heavenly laws can take hundreds of thousands of embodiments, not only the 4 men you saw. Gu Shijiu was obviously confused. Yun Yanli had to explain to her everything that he knew about it. According to the legend, the heavenly laws has created everything in the world. At the beginning of the universe, all beings knew nothing about good and evil. They coexisted, but fought in mutual slaughter, plunging the world into an abyss of misery. The world gradually became an evil place. Pestilence filled the world like an epidemic, turning it into a mess. The heavenly law had mercy on the world by creating an order, a rule for everything in the world to follow. Slowly, all 6 worlds were formed. The heavenly law will take many forms and linger in different bounds to experience different lives in order to improve the rules. Gu Shijiu was perplexed. Was the heavenly law the creator of the world? From what she knew, Pangu was the one who created the world by separating the sky from the earth. His body then dissolved to create everything in the world by forming the mountains and the rivers, including the flowers, plants, and trees, and even the animals. He made everything but human beings. Nuwa Empress added life by shaping the figurines by hand, thus creating the human civilization and societal institution. Some regarded the Nuwa Empress as the mother of life and the creator of the world. Was the Nuwa Empress the heavenly law? She could not be. Pangu was the one who created the world and added the primitive elements of life to it. Pangu was the emperor who presided over heaven. Nuwa Empress had only created a human civilization, but the legends stated that the heavenly law ruled heaven as well. Was Pangu the heavenly law, then? Or perhaps, the heavenly law was only a law, which had nothing to do with Pangu or the Nuwa Empress. Gu Shijiu was still confused. She continued to discuss the topic with Yun Yanli. Those are only legends from the earth. There are hundreds of thousands of different worlds below heaven. The heavenly law has created an order for the 6 worlds, the divine kingdom, the celestial kingdom, the devil kingdom, the monster kingdom, hell, and the mortal world. The earth consists of mortal beings and a small number of monsters. Whereas heaven contains divine beings, celestial beings, devils and even monsters. It is said that the divine beings are the most powerful ones. They carry out the heavenly laws and control between life and death among all beings of all kingdoms. The divine beings can live eternally and carry no mundane sentiments, implacable even among themselves. However, they are said to have disappeared, as they have immortalized in order to protect the 6 worlds. The celestial kingdom is now known as the Saha world, Yun Yanli explained patiently. He continued to talk with ease and confidence about the origin of the 6 worlds and the heavenly law. In the 6 worlds, each kingdom had its own ruler. The guardian of the celestial kingdom was the Emperor Immortal. The guardian of the devil kingdom was Emperor Devil. The monster kingdom was guarded and ruled by Monster King. All members of the 6 worlds worshipped the ultimate guardian of all beings, the Divine Lord. They also built the temple to constitute a formal expression of reverence for the heavenly law. The temple only existed in heaven, but all beings across the 6 worlds were obliged to follow the heavenly laws and order. As the prince of the celestial kingdom, Yun Yanli certainly knew many things. However, he had only heard about the legends, which were mostly very ancient. After his long explanation, Gu Shijiu finally grasped the concept. The heavenly law was a law made by the creator of the world who was an independent body. The heavenly law constituted the law and order for all 6 worlds. Occasionally, the creator would take different forms and embodiments to wander in different worlds. All beings had probably witnessed his embodiment before, only in different forms. Gu Shijiu recalled the voice in her head that proclaimed itself as the messenger of the heavenly law. She took another look at the firmament stone. It seemed like the messenger of the heavenly law as well, only of a lower rank. In fact, it did not sound quite the same as the unknown voice in her head. That one seemed to be more superior. It was a shame that she could not communicate with that voice right now. She had so many questions. According to Yun Yanli, the heavenly law was the ultimate order for all 6 worlds. No one was allowed to violate it. Respectively, the rulers had the power to punish anyone who had violated the terms, without requesting permission or going through the authority of the heavenly law. Nonetheless, she seemed to have violated the heavenly law many times, but she had not been severely punished yet. She could even negotiate the punishment. The heavenly law seemed quite approachable to Gu Shijiu. Yun Yanli was obviously interested to become her trusted friend. Throughout their conversation, he would answer, without reserve, anything that she did not understand. Yun Yanli had even gifted her with a glistening gold token. Whenever her presence was questioned by anyone in the Saha world, she only had to show the token for an immediate release. Also, Yun Yanli was indeed a good friend. Even though he failed to retrieve the golden ruler for himself, he did as promised and brought her to the celestial fruit party the next day. She managed to see more than 30 mighty immortals. All of them were full of spiritual energy and otherworldly aura. They also had awe-inspiring appearances, far transcending the others in beauty and elegance. However, she did not see the one that she wished to meet. She had even met the Emperor Immortal. He dressed entirely in purple and possessed a stern temperament. His appearance was equally attractive, but he was not the man. Unfortunately, her visit to the celestial fruit party bore no result. Time went by quickly. Gu Shijiu had stayed for more than 6 months in heaven. She had been to almost everywhere in the Saha world by now. With Yun Yanli's help, she managed to see another 20 mighty immortals but found nothing. They all lived in very remote places. Each visit was very time-consuming. Gu Shijiu did not want to leave a bad name behind in heaven, so she had been keeping a very low profile. She was not a very sociable person, so not many people knew about her. Neither would she get herself involved in any dramas or conflicts. She spent the past 6 months in the search for the man. When the time came, she had to return to Starry Crescent Land again with the help of the 5-colored bird. The ice and snow that had been raging the land finally melted away. Life finally began to flourish. The positive change was probably due to the change of her heart, for she no longer felt the shade of melancholy that had been settling in her heart. When she stepped into the Biwu Palace once again, she felt as though she was reborn. The 4 messengers had been greatly helpful. Even in her absence, they had been ruling the land very carefully. They required her presence only when they had to deal with very difficult situations that were beyond their capability. She led a rather idle life in Starry Crescent Land. She saw the books that were copied by the 4 messengers. Those were the books that talked about the cultivation of the Lord. A sudden inspiration occurred to her one day. She asked Mu Feng about the books. Where did you copy the texts from? Mu Feng was obviously taken by surprise. My lord, you were the one who told us to copy the books, before you went into the Forbidden Land. Gu Shijiu was confused. The content of the cultivation books was very profound. She had never even seen it before. How could she possibly tell them to copy something she did not even know of? Where is the original text that you have copied from? Mu Feng handed her a book of empty pages. This is the one, my lord. It used to be filled with words when we started. When we were done, the book suddenly became empty. We do not even remember what we have copied. She could tell something was not right. Gu Shijiu was too tired to think about it before, so she missed out the questionable points. Now that she thought about it seriously, many doubts started to surface. She looked at the empty books and decided to flip through one of the books. Suddenly, she had a dim recollection of a figure, sitting by the bed and writing a book attentively. By his side, lay a companion. Chapter 1866, the one who was writing the book attentively was a man. Lying down by his side, hugging his leg tightly like a koala bear, was a woman. The woman seemed to have just been woken up from her sleep. She lounged comfortably and asked, "Why are you writing all these things again? I do not want you to do that." Quickly, she tried to take the book away from him, but her attempt failed. Her hand was helplessly pinned down. Be a good girl. Behave. Then, he bent his head and planted a soft kiss on her forehead. Be a good girl, will you? Do not say anything. The woman seemed unconvinced. I refuse to. I will continue to distract you. She attempted to take the book away again. This time, he pinned her body down on the bed. He held her down with one hand while trying to keep his book with another. He then put her down on the bed and flirted. I see that you like to misbehave. I will now teach you a lesson. My lord. My lord. Mu Feng was concerned, seeing her lapsing into a light trance while holding the book. Gu Shijiu recovered from her preoccupation and saw Mu Feng standing right in front of her. Where did the man and the woman come from? Like the images of her hallucination before, she still could not see their faces properly. Somehow, she had fallen prey to the strange, irrational sentiments that almost moved her to tears. She knew that she had lost part of her memory, so did Mu Feng and the other messengers. She did not feel anything wrong about the loss before, but now, the hallucinations changed her perception entirely. Her memory loss must be the key. Were the man and the woman representing the figures of herself and the previous lord? Her stay in the world was a short one, probably about 2 decades. Therefore, there must be another lord before she took over. Who was the previous lord? She asked everyone, but none of them knew anything about the former lord. Was the previous lord the one that she was intuitively trying to find? However, the flashback of her hallucinations clearly showed that the man and the women were madly in love. The woman seemed timid and lovable, like a little bird that rested upon her man. Gu Shijiu touched her cheeks in sudden realization. She knew it well that she could never be the kind of woman who acted so timidly around her man. If she were truly in love, she would treat her other half with proper respect and concern. She would stand by him, like how she used to get along with Long Sai before. She could not imagine how she would look like, being all affectionate and dependent on a man. Frustrated by her loss of memory, she gave a light thump on her temple. She hated it when it happened to her. Did she hurt her head in the Buddha Fire Land? She could somehow tell that her memory was fine when she entered Buddha Fire Land. The loss only occurred after she left the place. She thought about it for a moment. Then, she proceeded to take out the skin of the Kuanpeng. The sight of the Kuanpeng struck her dumbfounded at once. She remembered that it used to be a fitted dress, but it had been completely torn apart in pieces. She walked in a circle with the skin of the Kuanpeng in her hand as she tried to recall something. An idea seemed ready to pop out, but she could not pinpoint exactly what it was about. She stood still as she quietly slipped into reverie. She tried to organize her thoughts. She was, after all, very smart. She put her recent flashbacks into place and tried to connect the dots. A bold conclusion could be made. When the Lord immortalized, everything about him had to be completely erased to get rid of his presence in the world, right? The more she thought about it, the more probable the idea became. She was somehow nervous and yet excited, for she finally had some clues about the mystery that had been troubling her for so long. She continued to trace the pieces and thought of another possibility. In that case, did the previous Lord immortalize and proceed to heaven already? Was he the cause of her obsession with heaven? Just as Long Fei was about to use the power of the ancient dragon body, he felt a hint of the dragon's aura. However, he wasn't shocked, but his eyes shone with even more excitement. The dragon race had been exterminated. There were no longer any dragons in the Dragon Vein Mountain of the Divine Space. The remaining dragon clan members who were hiding everywhere in the divine space, being chased and killed by the Xians, were basically on the edge of being exterminated. In order to protect himself and turn into a dog of the Emperor Xian, the current patriarch of the dragon clan, Long Wuxian, had caused even the families of the divine space to mock him. The dragon race had become the laughingstock of the divine space. Everyone pushed against the wall. Previously, the dragon clan's camel was still bigger than a horse, but now, everyone wanted to step on it ruthlessly. If he met any dragon clan disciples, he wouldn't let them go, he could just kill one of them and go to Xian's to receive their rewards. Emperor Xian also said that ancient world did not need the existence of the dragon race. Emperor Xian was currently one of the most powerful powerhouse in the competition, so his words carried a lot of weight in the competition. If he said this, then wouldn't those dragon clan disciples be killed when they saw him? Pray for a phoenix to become a dragon. Ha ha ha, I want both the dragon and the phoenix. After killing the dragon clan disciples, I will be rewarded with the Xians, and then I will be able to obtain the spirit blood of the phoenix princess. My cultivation will be raised by leaps and bounds, and when I return to the divine space, I will be a 9th-ranked god. The black-clothed man excitedly stepped into the mountain gate. Who is it? Daring to enter the ancient antiquity? Do you have the order badge? 2 disciples who were guarding the mountain stopped the black-clothed man's path. The man in black sneered. In that instant, his figure moved, his shadow curling up. Kacha, Kacha. The instant his figure passed through the 2 disciples didn't even have time to react before falling to the ground. Their faces were deathly pale, without any signs of life. The black shadow man didn't even look at them. He did not use any of his strength. Seeing that, Feng Wanping immediately ran forward, his brows knitted, and thought, this man's cultivation is too strong, I have to notify the great clan elder as soon as possible, if not, I am afraid that ancient antiquity will be able to. He didn't dare think about it. Those elite disciples of the king's swordsman rank from before died miserably in the hands of the black-clothed man, the same way. This guy was simply not someone from the world of mortal world. With the appearance of the divine space's powerhouse, who could block it? Seeing that the black-clothed man had walked far away, Feng Wanping changed his direction and flew directly towards the inner door. The man in black did not stop him. He had already reached his destination, so he didn't care much about Feng Wanping. In his eyes, everything within the world of mortal world were ants. What he wanted was phoenix blood. He had already locked onto the phoenix blood aura and was approaching it step by step. As for those who tried to stop him, there was only one outcome. Die. After the first round, there were only 18 disciples left out of 36 people. This time, Long Fei's side had half of the participants. The other 9 people all felt extremely pressured. If they were to lose after the second round, then only Long Fei and the rest remained. At that time, the competition would be entirely controlled by Long Fei. Let the second round of the martial competition begin. First round, Wu Huo will fight against Ma Tian. Disciples, please step forward. The second round of the martial arts competition began. Long Fei patted Wu Huo's shoulders and said, his cultivation is higher than yours, but your talent is far stronger than his. Furthermore, the one you are afraid of right now is him, don't feel burdened. Wu Hun nodded and said, N. He strode towards the arena. At this moment, the space between Phoenix's eyebrows sank and her expression changed. Long Fei could not help but ask, what happened to you? Your face is so ugly. Phoenix shook her head and said, I'm fine. Is there something wrong? Long Fei said. Phoenix quickly recovered her cute expression, giggled, and said, maybe I ate too much barbecue yesterday, my stomach was a bit uncomfortable. My darling, I'll go take care of it. Long Fei scratched Phoenix's nose and said, it's just that you don't understand how to take care of yourself, hurry up and go. Phoenix nodded and replied, N. And then, Phoenix quickly left the square. The black-clothed man could sense her existence, and Phoenix could also sense his approach. It was just that, in the beginning, she did not put it to heart. It was only when the black-clothed man entered the ancient antiquity that she felt it, making her panic a little. Moreover, what kind of powerhouse was the black-clothed man? Someone who could kill her grandfather. If he found this place, the entire outer sect would probably die cleanly. The outer sect disciples didn't care, the most important person was Long Fei. She couldn't let anything happen to Long Fei. Wu Huo wins. Next match. After a few rounds, Wu Huo still won. He won with a psychological advantage. The talent of the five-element fire placed an even greater pressure on every disciple. If it wasn't for this, wanting to win wouldn't have been so easy. Talent was talent after all. Talent can only mean that you have a potential that is even stronger than ordinary people. Before this potential is revealed, the cultivation realm will still explain everything. Wu Tu walked up the stage. Not long after, he won too. However, Long Fei was a little absent-minded. Why is the girl not back yet? Yun Shi looked at Long Fei and said, it's just a stomachache, look at how nervous you are. Long Fei shook her head and said, something is wrong. She must be hiding something from me. What kind of existence was a phoenix? She had diarrhea. Just kidding. Yun Shi was startled, and said, how about this, I'll go look for them. You stay here and calm the scene, they can't do without you. Indeed. Long Fei was their backbone, and the moment he left, it would affect them greatly. Long Fei said, all right, find her and come back as soon as possible. Yun Shi said, don't worry. Yun Shi quickly left. Long Fei was a little uneasy in his heart, and had a bad premonition. Wu Shui wins, next match. I won, hee hee. The little girl jumped down. All five of them won the match. Next match. Bailey Tianhai against Zhong Qi. As soon as he finished, Bailey Tianhai became excited, finally it's my turn. Long Fei's expression also tightened, and said, Tianhai, Zhong Qi's strength is not simple, he has always been concealing himself, you must be more careful. Bailey Tianhai said, big brother, don't worry. Even if I die today, I will let him die first. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. He didn't forget his grudge outside the South Heaven Gate for even a second. If it was not 10 times more, he would not be Bailey Tianhai. Bailey Tianhai walked up the stage, looked at Zhong Qi, and said, I have been waiting for this day for a long time. Zhong Qi sneered, and said, the last time I didn't kill you, I let you know what it means to feel despair. This time, I'll let you know what it means to feel despair again. Just you wait. Just wait for you to kneel in front of me and wail. Ha ha ha. Chapter 1868. Gu Shijiu sealed her lips and refused to comment. The firmament stone continued, Master, I can only tell you that you are indeed linked to the previous Lord, but like what you have been told, he did not ascend to heaven. He is not among the mighty immortals. He has truly immortalized and will never come back again. If you keep on thinking about your past, you will never be able to move on. No matter what happened, let bygones be where they should be, in the past. Both of you were only destined to meet and fall in love once. When the relationship ended, it ended. You should look ahead. Gu Shijiu stared at the leather suit blankly. She knew the firmament stone was right. She really should put her past behind and look forward to what lied ahead. However, she could feel a huge piece of the puzzle was missing from the picture, like a void that could never be filled. It was very depressing. She recollected the dream that she had in heaven. There was a voice that gave her a sense of direction. If she wished to find what she wanted, she had first to accomplish a mission. She decided to dismiss other thoughts and focus on the mission. Without further question, she used her spiritual power to put the shattered piece of the kunpeng's skin into one again. She put it on and took a casual turn. The vivid blue dress was very light and soft. Most importantly, it fitted her perfectly. A conversation flashed before her eyes. The dress is a perfect fit. You have not taken my measurements. How did you know my size? I am afraid that I know your body better than you do. Gu Shijiu tried to focus on the conversation, but as usual, it faded away. The conversation sounded very intimate. Had they not any sexual interaction before? Gu Shijiu shook her head to dismiss the thought. Intuitively, she did not wish to think about the matter. She should dismiss the thought and focus on the mission. She took another stroll in the Buddha fire land. As a security measure in the blazing flames, she performed a fire trap spell to keep her safe. Gu Shijiu realized that her memory about the place was intact. She could still remember the particular spot where the purple cloud mushroom grew. She returned to the spot again, but there was nothing. The mussel had completely swept everything away, leaving no traces of any mushroom behind. She circled the area as her intuition told her that a clue must have been hidden here. There were many flaming rocks around. Having found nothing, she was a little disappointed by the result. She heaved a long sigh and was finally ready to leave. However, a sudden flash occurred before her eyes. She could clearly see a white shadow sitting on one of the flaming rocks. There were some shattered pieces of golden fragments, glistening glamorously in the shadow's hand. The white shadow was only a faint image, so Gu Shijiu could not tell its identity from its appearance. The white shadow could be seen staring blankly at the shattered fragments. Gu Shijiu stood quietly as she watched the shadow's every movement with close attention from a distance. She was afraid that the shadow might be alarmed at the tiniest distraction and instantly disappear. The hallucination lasted longer this time. She wanted to observe it a little longer. The white shadow could be seen falling into a trance. A few moments later, he sighed and opened his palm. A box appeared, as dark as crimson. Gu Shijiu was surprised at the sight of the box. The box that she saw in her dreams finally reappeared. The shadow rubbed the box thoughtfully for a moment. Suddenly, the box opened up, allowing the shadow to keep the fragments in it. Soon, the box was closed again. The white shadow put his palm on the cover of the box while mumbling some incantations. She did not know what the spell was about, but there was a faint glow of light slowly emerging. The figure then rose and hit forcibly on the rock that he sat on. The rock did not shatter right away. Instead, a hole appeared. He kept the box away in the hole and performed a spell to seal it. Gu Shijiu watched in awe as the scene passed before her eyes. She took one step closer in order to recognize the shadow's face. One step later, the white shadow disappeared from sight. Gu Shijiu stood her ground and heaved a sigh of relief. The hallucination lasted longer this time, about 4 minutes or so. Was this a sign of improvement? She took another step forward and realized something: it might be more than just a hallucination. Usually, there would be 2 characters in all the images that she had seen before. Although she could not see their faces clearly, she could almost tell that the woman must be a representation of herself. The hallucinations that she used to have were the events that she had gone through personally, the ones that had been unfortunately forgotten. This one, however, was different. There was only a shadow throughout the entire vision. The vision could be a real event, not just a hallucination. It could have been captured by some interactions of magnetic fields. Gu Shijiu was aware of the possibility of such occurrences. When a storm raged in the past, some old houses would suddenly display the signs of the people who had previously lived in the house. By a strange combination of circumstances, the rare sighting was captured when the lightning hit the wall and accidentally recorded a small piece of the ongoing event. Under the same circumstances, the same sighting would be played again like a rewind. Was it happening here, for what she had just seen? Her heart started to throb anxiously. If the vision was true, the box could still be in the rock. Gu Shijiu turned and stared fixedly at the huge rock from a distance. It was the rock that had been hit by the white shadow. Quickly, she took a huge leap towards the rock and paced around it, trying to find the correct angle. Once the spot was located, she started to split the rock open. The rock was far more solid than she thought it would be. She used an ordinary sword to split the rock, but it could not even cause a small crack on its surface. Gu Shijiu tried using different weapons, but none of them worked. However, the golden ruler emerged from her storage bag eagerly, jostling for prominence. Gu Shijiu felt a surging hope. Quickly, she got a grip of the ruler and aimed directly at the rock. Bang! There was a sound of a huge impact. The golden ruler bounced back, leaving the rock perfectly untouched. How could it be so solid? It seemed to be even tougher than a diamond. Gu Shijiu frowned, obviously in disbelief. She saw it with her own eyes, how the white shadow split the rock open simply with a punch. Why didn't her weapons work? Was the white shadow's strength very much stronger than hers? In skepticism, she clenched the ruler tightly and tried once more. However, there was a sharp pain on her palm like she had just been bitten. She let go of her grip and found a bloody wound on her palm. It seemed like the ruler had cut her flesh open. Blood was oozing out from the wound and slowly dripped along the edge of the golden ruler. The golden ruler failed to cut the rock open. Instead, it slashed her flesh open. She tried to stop the bleeding, but something on the rock caught her attention. When her blood touched the surface of the rock, it did not evaporate despite the raging fire. Slowly, it continued to flow. She decided to keep her blood flowing. The blood flowed in an assigned pattern on the rock. Slowly, the rock presented itself in the shape of a box amidst the stirring blood. Gu Shijiu was surprised. Without a second thought, she hit the rock again with her weapon along the path of her blood. It was rather easy, this time, like cutting soft tofu. The rock was starting to take a boxy shape. Finally, she exerted her force for the last time. One side of the rock was cut open, revealing what was inside. Within it lay the crimson box. She could finally see the shape of the box. The box accentuated a unique, vintage design, and looked heavy. On its cover, there was an emerald of lively luminosity. She finally found the box. Gu Shijiu was relieved to know that her trip was not in vain. She put the box away in her storage bag. Another look at the rock reminded her of a phrase. Fate has brought the lovers together, with a love that lasts for an eternity. When the love comes to an unpalatable end, one's heart must be buried away, deeply in a sealed box. The box had indeed been buried here. Did it end up here because of a heartbreak? Gu Shijiu pondered for a moment at the scene. The place was burning with extreme temperatures after the rock had been shattered. Now that Gu Shijiu had found what she desired, she was reluctant to stay any longer. Swiftly, she exited. She returned to her bedroom, sitting and studying the box attentively. The box was considerably light for her. She twisted and turned the box several times, but failed to figure out the opening mechanism. She shook the box to hear what was inside, but no sound was heard. She tried to recall the dream again. The man in her dream held a bracelet in his hand, while the man in her vision held a handful of shattered pieces instead. Did the bracelet become shattered? Was the box carrying the pieces of the bracelet? If there were pieces in the box, surely there would be noise, but she could not hear anything in it. Gu Shijiu was an expert in unlocking different mechanisms. However, it was different this time. After hiding in her bedroom for a couple of weeks, she still could not find out a way to open the box. There did not seem to be an opening. She tried many different ways, even with the help of the golden ruler. The box remained uncut. She clearly saw that the white shadow had opened the box and put some pieces away in it. Why couldn't she open it now? She was circling the box, helplessly trying to figure a way. A voice suddenly spoke in her head, "The box is a heavenly secret box. Only the destined one can open it. You should not waste any more time." Gu Shijiu finally heard the voice again, from the messenger of the heavenly secret with a voice of indistinguishable gender. Who is the destined one? Gu Shijiu was eager to find out. It is a quest for you to find out. The voice then continued, it is the only way. How does the person look like? Where should I start? What is the person's identity? Gu Shijiu continued to bombard the messenger with a series of questions, but the voice was gone again, obviously refusing to answer her inquiries. Gu Shijiu took a look at the box that had been bothering her for a while and decided to change the direction of her search. She should start looking for the destined one. The destined one should be the white man in her vision. Although she had not seen his face clearly, she could tell that the man was tall and possibly attractive. Moreover, he seemed like a powerful person. A man as such should not be a difficult find. After so long, Gu Shijiu finally found a new direction for her life. She finally felt more alive. However, before she could embark on her journey, Mu Feng came to report, "My lord, the Feishing Kingdom has recently welcomed the arrival of a new prince. The prince is quite special. As soon as he was born, the room shone in glistening red light. Many magpies circled in the air as if forecasting good news." Chapter 1871 Unexpected events accompanied the birth of the prince. Traditionally speaking, the birth of a child with anomalies required the inspection from the Lord. Gu Shijiu was in the mood for it, so she attended. Her first meeting with the child almost gave her a heart attack. The child was about 2 weeks old, lying comfortably in the arms of the nanny. Unlike most babies with wrinkled skin, his face was full of delicate features. He was indeed a beautiful baby. He had a pair of very dark eyes. Their eyes met when Gu Shijiu bent down to take a closer look at him. Surprisingly, he pinched his little lips into a thin line and flushed crimson. He hid his face away, seemingly embarrassed. His look was familiar. Gu Shijiu directed an audio message to him. "Rong Jialua." The child froze momentarily. Then, he turned to look at her intensely. The look in his eyes surely did not come from an infant. Gu Shijiu placed her finger gently on his nose. Under the glamorous seven-colored ray, she finally sensed the essence of his soul. It was Rong Jialua. He had reincarnated and was born again into the royal family. If she was not mistaken, he would still be the eldest prince of the kingdom and would once again retrieve what he had lost. Only this time, he returned with a different identity. Moreover, he carried his memories from his previous life. Rong Jialuo's death had always been a great loss for Gu Shijiu. She actually thought that his soul had melted away. To her surprise, he made his comeback. No matter what, his return had brought great joy to Gu Shijiu. The child will have a bright future of extraordinary achievements, Gu Shijiu made her conclusion. Such a compliment from the Lord came as a huge triumph to the emperor of the Feishing Kingdom. He bowed and requested for his name from the Lord. Gu Shijiu then turned to look at Rong Jialua. He was watching her fixedly with his small eyes. His lips moved a little, struggling to say to her, "Jialua." He wanted to be himself. The child very much resembles the late emperor. "I shall name him Jialua." The emperor was shocked. He was the younger brother of Rong Jialua. When Rong Jialua was still alive, he treated his younger brother with care. Indeed, the emperor missed him dearly. If his child was named the same as the late emperor, would it be inappropriate? He told Gu Shijiu about his concern. She responded, "It does not matter. The name sounds the same but bears different characters. I name the child with the name, in memory of your late brother." If the Lord insisted, the emperor would not comment any further. He quickly named his son as Rong Jialua and ranked him as the eldest prince of the kingdom. He also proclaimed a general amnesty to celebrate his birth. The life of a common man seemed good, completed with the cycle of birth and death, and even reincarnation. Once reincarnated, one would have nothing to do with the previous life and start anew. It was a rare visit from the Lord, so the emperor gave her a hospitable reception on her arrival. Many old friends and relatives joined the feast as well. It was a jolly gathering. Seeing these familiar faces could not help but give Gu Shijiu a sense of emptiness. The place was bustling with life and excitement, but she could still feel a void as if something important was missing. During the feast, the emperor asked if the Fuzang Palace should be torn down for refurbishment. The emperor was, in fact, referring to the residence of celestial masters Hua when he talked about the Fuzang Palace. Of course, he could not recall who used to reside there. The Fuzang Palace was nothing but an empty building now. The emperor of the Feixing Kingdom wanted to gift the palace to his official. However, Gu Shijiu was reluctant to give it away, for it somehow meant something special to her. Chapter 1872, It would be unreasonable for the palace to be left empty. Moreover, the palace was built on the ground with the best feng shui out of the entire capital city, where every inch of the land was valuable. The emperor thus seized the opportunity to ask Gu Shijiu of her opinion about the place. Gu Shijiu insisted on keeping the palace, so she shook her head to dismiss the emperor's suggestion. Do not touch anything about the palace. I am keeping it for my personal use. The emperor decided not to ask anything more. Before Gu Shijiu departed, she decided to erase Rong Jialuo's memory about his previous life. His past life had not always been good. He had been living with heavy burdens all his life. In the end, his body was taken by Mo Zhao, and he died a tragic death. His reincarnation should grant him a new chance to live a new life, without the burdens of his past. Moreover, the emperor missed his elder brother very dearly. If he knew that his own son was the reincarnation of his beloved brother, there might be a negative influence on his growth. If Rong Jialua kept his memory, he would easily expose himself. Gu Shijiu did not return to the residence of National Celestial Master. Instead, she paid a visit to the Fuzang Palace. The place had been abandoned for almost 2 years. The pavilions and even the main buildings were all covered in long, overgrown grass, making the place look even more desolate. She walked the path and performed a spell to mow the grass as she went. She wanted the place to see the light of day once more. Slowly, her casual promenade led her all the way to the lakeside of the thermal spring. A thin, misty fog floated on the lake's surface, making it look unusually surreal. Without giving much thought, she leaped into the water, submerging her body in the warm water. She softly rippled the calm surface of the lake, and the scene reminded her of something familiar. She fell into a trance. In her vision, she saw a beautiful lady in a red dress, submerging half of her body in the water. A tiny figure in black was hugging her. That lady. However, they did not seem intimate. It seemed more like an attack. It roughly reminded her of a conversation. You have seen me naked. You have even touched me. How could a princess like me be entirely exposed and even touched by a man? I have lost my chastity. I am ready to die to preserve my honor. I am a woman. I fail to notice that. My puberty has failed me. I really am a woman. If you choose to believe me, how? How are you going to prove it? The content of the conversation was too much for her to process. She could not tell the genders apart, but she knew there were 2 voices. Surprisingly, she could remember that the beauty in red was, in fact, a man and the tiny, black figure was a woman. There was a splash, pulling her back to reality, but there was only her, alone in the huge lake. There was not anyone else. Her heart started to throb as sadness filled it. She took a deep breath to calm herself down. Was the vision an actual event of what they had been through? This time, the man was dressed entirely in fiery red. It seems like this man was not consistently wearing purple, he would sometimes dress in red, and other times in white. Was the man Huang Tu, the man that was mentioned by the firmament stone? If so, Gu Shijiu knew that he did not go to the upper bound after his immortalization. He had vanished entirely. They would not meet again. She took the box out, tossing and turning it in her hands like her empty heart. Her mission was to find the master of the box. Surely, its master must be someone extraordinary. Who would that be? High above the world, the moon kindled the lake, shining on the calm surface and the forlorn figure of hers. Gu Shijiu closed her eyes, lost in her own thoughts. She had so many questions without answers. The heavenly law. A voice emerged so suddenly. Gu Shijiu opened her eyes, obviously in shock. What? The master of the box was the embodiment of the heavenly law. The voice had come as a bit of a shock. Chapter 1873. In great astonishment, Gu Shijiu could not believe the jade figure that she saw in her dream was the master of the heavenly law. Was the master of the heavenly law the one who buried the box? Gu Shijiu had to find out. The signs of the heavenly law should not be revealed. You only have to know that the one that you are looking for is the master of the heavenly law, and that is all. Did the master of the heavenly law escape and you need my help to capture him? Who needs your help to capture the master of heavenly law? Outrageous. Why should I look for him, then? Give him the box and let fate take its course. By the way, is he a man? Nonsense. Where is he? I do not know. Gu Shijiu was speechless. If she could not be sure where to look for him, the search would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. It would definitely be a long, long search. How do I know it is him? You will have to count on your intuition. Gu Shijiu was confused again. Her intuition worked like magic every time, but she did not know when to trust her intuition, especially since she had never met the man before. A sudden realization hit her. Could they be the same man, the man in her past and the master of the heavenly law? She felt her heart beat violently. Seizing the opportunity, she continued, is Huang Tu the master of the heavenly law? He. Gu Shijiu frowned in frustration. What did you mean with that? Yes or no? The voice disappeared. Gu Shijiu waited, but the answer never came. She heaved a sigh and made up her mind that her search from now on would be for the master of the heavenly law. The master of the heavenly law sounded very much like a condescending existence. Even if he had reincarnated, his superior presence should be easily noticeable. To Gu Zijia's greatest surprise, the man was not easy to find. It was basically an impossible mission. The search lasted for almost 200 years. From the upper to the lower bound, she searched for him tirelessly and had met many powerful people. None of them was him. Many things happened during the 2 centuries. In the lower bound, Gu Xietian had eventually passed away. Before his death, he finally asked for Luo Xinglan's forgiveness. They promised to meet each other again in their next lives for their love to be continued. Soon, Luo Xinglan died, following his death. 3 years before his death, Luo Zhanyu, also known as Gu Tiannua, finally acknowledged his past and changed his name to Gu Zhanyu. Gu Zhanyu heeded Luo Xinglan's last words and buried her next to Gu Xietian, making both of their final wishes come true. Gu Zhanyu did not get himself involved in politics. Instead, he became the greatest overlord of his time. After the death of the emperor in the Feishan kingdom, Rong Jialua ascended the throne and became the new emperor. Rong Jialua possessed distinctive qualities, and with Gu Zijia's help, he managed to achieve a level 9 spiritual power before he turned 30, greatly extending his lifespan. Being a wise emperor, he made every effort to make the country prosperous. Within the 2 centuries, Gu Shijiu tested and found 5 true Heaven Gifts disciples. She assigned Mu Feng to guide and help them grow. Certainly, there were some false ones. Gu Shijiu had to send them away to the dark forest, leaving them to fend for themselves. In the meantime, she would visit the Forbidden Land once every 20 years to bring back the people who had reached level 9. These people felt a mixture of awe and reverence of her. They dared not stir up troubles. Instead, they would either establish their own clans or wander around the world at their will. The land thrived and returned to its usual prosperity. Surely, some of Gu Zijia's friends died. Some died a natural death, others died in wars. Li Mengxia, for example, died in a war. Before her death, Gu Shijiu was right beside her. Gu Shijiu intended to rescue her by rewinding her death. Chapter 1874. Gu Shijiu intended to rescue her by rewinding her death, but her attempt had been kindly rejected. With her remaining breaths, Li Mengxia said, "Shijiu, let it happen." Death seemed like the liberation of her pain. Gu Shijiu was surprised. Why? Li Mengxia stared into the sky blankly. I miss him. He never came for me. I shall look for him, then. Li Mengxia had always been very optimistic about everything. She rushed around only to get her work done. Also, she had always been single. Gu Shijiu never knew why. At first, she thought Li Mengxia was against the idea of marriage. Little did she know that she had always loved the same man. Who is he? Gu Shijiu was curious. Overlord Long, Li Mengxia told her frankly. She finally talked about the name for the last time, the name that had been troubling her for years. Gu Shijiu was utterly surprised. Li Mengxia had never talked about her feelings publicly. Long Sai was doing very well in the upper bound. He was now a general, commonly acknowledged as Sai, the senior immortal. He even had his own residence in the 7th layer of heaven. After her death, Li Mengxia would be sent to hell instead. She would be reincarnated. Even in her death, she would not be able to see Long Sai again. She held Li Mengxia's hand tightly and told her about Long Sai's condition, hoping that it would give her a sense of hope to live on. Li Mengxia was momentarily lost for words. Soon, she responded with a smile and said, "Actually, it is good this way. I only have to know that he is fine. I will be entering my next cycle of life soon. I will start anew, without remembering him. I will be free from the misery of loving him and hopefully, I will be happily in love with another man." Her eyes were full of hope. I am looking forward to the next life. Gu Shijiu would not be able to change her mind, and Li Mengxia died in her arms later. Gu Shijiu buried her on a hill with beautiful views. Li Mengxia was a very good friend. Although Gu Shijiu had become the lord, their friendship never changed. Gu Shijiu grieved for her death. One of the perks of being the lord was that she could find out where her rebirth would be. 15 years later, Gu Shijiu found Li Mengxia in the Haoyue kingdom. Indeed, she could finally lead a happy, blissful life with her childhood sweetheart. When she found her, they were soon going to be married. One thing that remained was Li Mengxia's temperament. She was still the same enthusiastic lady as she used to be. She and her childhood sweetheart were so in love, like an affectionate couple. Gu Shijiu watched as they left hand in hand for an outing together. She had forgotten entirely about Long Sai after her reincarnation. It was considered a blessing to her. Hence, Gu Shijiu did not interrupt her and left. Her boundless life had taught her many things. She had seen many bitter moments of separation and death. She had also been through many stages of life, too many to take them all seriously. Nothing really mattered to her anymore. In fact, she became less emotional as time went on. Did Huang Tu, the previous lord, have the same experience? Did he truly care about anything in his life? Did he really care about anything at all? The affection that they once had was true, wasn't it? Her long, boundless life was getting a little boring. How did Huang Tu pass his time? Without any memory about Huang Tu, all she could do was to make random speculations. Her long years of life seemed to have no end, giving her a profound sense of ennui. Her mission became the only source of joy. All these years, she had been traveling back and forth between the upper and lower bounds. Every time she heard about the existence of some odd men, she would go and check it out immediately, but none of them was the one she was looking for. Chapter 1875. Yun Yanli had been helping her search around heaven. However, the results were disappointing as none was the one she was looking for, even though there were more than 200 mighty immortals. Since she found out that those people were not the one she was looking for, she went to the Devil Kingdom and the Monster Kingdom. Unfortunately, it was disappointing too. Thus, she was not eager to go to heaven anymore. Sometimes, she only went once a year, and sometimes she only went up there once every 3 to 4 years. The longest she was away was 10 years. Surprisingly, she realized everything had changed when during the 10-year gap. There was a little devil master in the Devil Kingdom, and rumor has it that the little devil master was reborn. The little devil master was very powerful as she attacked heaven and hurt many of the immortals there. The Devil Master had already united the celestial devil continent when Gu Shijiu visited again, and all 3 realms of the immortals, devils, and monsters had already submitted to her. While Yun Yanli went missing during the war, Gu Shijiu was only a guest of heaven and she never wanted to be involved in any matter, hence, she did not manage to find Yun Yanli. Since she was sure that Long Sai was safe, she did not take this incident seriously and continued to look for her target. Certainly, Gu Shijiu found the little devil master suspicious and secretly followed her. She realized that she was indeed a very charming girl with a strong aura. Gu Shijiu seemed to admire her, however, she was not her target. She stayed at heaven as per a request but brought back nothing. Suddenly, she heard that the Divine Lord had returned when she was about to leave. It was rumored that the reason this continent was named as the Celestial Devil Continent was that it was ruled and managed by the Divine Lord and Devil Master. However, the Divine Lord and the Devil Master went missing together, therefore, the Emperor Immortal became the ruler. It was probably due to this reason that heaven was in chaos right now. Anyway, the Divine Lord and the Devil Master returned. It definitely prevented the Emperor Immortal from being the sole ruler now. However, the Divine Lord had a complicated relationship with the little Devil Master. Certainly, Gu Shijiu had to find out more about the Divine Lord. His name was Shinjiuli, he was charming and possessed a very strong aura too. However, Gu Shijiu knew he was not the one the moment she saw him, though she sensed a very different aura from the Divine Lord, as if the person she was looking for had a special relationship with the Divine Lord. She was contemplating extending her stay, but she had not much time to delay. 6 months later, she returned to heaven and realized there was major change again. The Emperor Immortal was missing and many talented immortals disappeared along with him. Not only that, even the spiritual energy was not as rich as usual. Almost all the buildings of the 3 realms collapsed. Apparently, the continent had just gone through a disaster as she felt dark energy still lingered in the air. Everyone looked anxious, but also relieved that they survived. She saw the Divine Lord, Shinjiuli, and the Devil Master, Ning Shuima, when she was on the way to the 7th layer of heaven. Both of them seemed to be relieved too. Chapter 1876. Initially, Gu Shijiu thought both of them had a special relationship with the one she was looking for. She would have greeted them and even invited them for a drink back in the past. However, she found it difficult to interrupt them based on their current interaction. Therefore, she flew away after she excused herself. However, she sensed that a pair of eyes were watching her. She was stunned, as she felt someone was watching her with a crystal ball or something equivalent. She quickly checked her surroundings and fixed her eyes in a specific direction. However, she only found more survivors present. What's going on? She was confused. She made her move to the land after a ponder. She decided to dig in at a restaurant and continue to collect information. This restaurant was the best place to collect information. Since she intended to know more, she managed to understand the incident right after her meal. She finally found out that the continent was swept away by a particular venom a few months ago. The 3 realms almost turned into hell. Therefore, the Divine Lord, the Devil Master, the Emperor Immortal, and a few senior immortals worked together to seal a purple venom. Unfortunately, the Divine Lord was immortalized during the process, and a substitute Divine Lord was born. The substitute Divine Lord wanted to unite the 3 realms and become the ruler of the 3 realms. The Emperor Immortal joined the alliance of the new Divine Lord to attack the Devil Master, Ning Xuema, and her son. Unexpectedly, the Emperor Immortal and the new Divine Lord were defeated when Xing Xuema counterattacked. Therefore, the Emperor Immortal was dethroned while the substitute Divine Lord was missing. The substitute Divine Lord could not bear his failure and intended to kidnap Ning Xuemo's son but failed. He quickly retreated to the Hell and set a trap to suck Ning Xuema and the King of Hell into the array. At the critical moment, the Divine Lord, Shenjiuli, returned and killed the substitute Divine Lord along with help from Ning Xuema. The celestial devil continent has finally returned to its harmony. When Gu Shizhou saw them, it was the moment right after they killed the substitute Divine Lord. However, Gu Shizhou was not interested in anything related to the continent, and she was not a fan of the Emperor Immortal. Her only concern was her friend's safety and whether they have found Yun Yanli, who has been missing for a while now. Gu Shizhou found Long Sai, and both of them became good friends again in the past 200 years. They basically just talked about everything. Even in heaven, Long Sai was also a genius as he managed to be promoted to a senior immortal in just 200 years. The last time Gu Shizhou came, she took a stroll in his residence. Although it was not huge, there was a hall with 2 rooms. This time, Gu Shizhou noticed the small residence was gone, but it was replaced by a bigger residence with a new signboard. If she did not notice Long Sai's handwriting, she would have thought someone had invaded his residence. Seems like he got promoted again. She knocked on the door, and an unfamiliar little girl opened the door. "Who are you looking for?" the little girl asked as she started to ponder. "Is Sai here?" Previously, Long Sai did not have any servant although he owned a residence. Hence, Gu Shizhou used to open the door by herself. She was surprised to see a lady servant this time. The little girl was stunned. "You are Shizhou." A man walked out from the inner courtyard. It was Long Sai. The new residence was so much bigger than the previous one. There was a bridge above the stream, and the roof's design was also different now. Chapter 1877, many beautiful flowers were blooming in the garden. He even had a herbs corner at the southern part of his house. That was exactly Long Sai's style of living. Gu Shizhou and Long Sai walked side by side. Jokingly, she asked, "So, you got promoted?" Long Sai smiled. "Nah, just not being discriminated anymore." Gu Shizhou frowned as she looked at him. Long Sai prepared a table of pastries in a flick of his sleeve. "Here, let's eat while we talk, you hardly visit me anymore." Gu Shizhou smiled as she looked at a tableful of food. "You are indeed rich now." All the dishes were made from expensive ingredients, and Long Sai could not afford to pay for this back then. "Shizhou, I earned these with my hard work, it will be better in the future." Long Sai smiled. Both of them ate while they continued chit-chatting. Gu Shizhou knew more about Long Sai's life from there. Those who ascended were usually discriminated, they could only hold a position ranked 6th in the hierarchy. Hence, they did not really have a good life as most of them could only become servants. Previously, Long Sai worked under the supervision of Yun Yanli, hence, he enjoyed some privileges because of Gu Shizhou. Additionally, because of his talents, he had a relatively good life in the military camp. However, since Yun Yanli was missing, everything had changed. Princess Ye came back and made his life miserable. She even instigated Long Sai's superior to abuse him. Long Sai had a very difficult life since then, and he almost collapsed. Helplessly, he paid a visit to the first general of heaven, Yi Tianli. Fortunately enough, Yi Tianli recruited him because of his talent and hired him as a chief soldier. Yi Tianli was quite close to Ning Xuema as he decided to support Ning Xuema during the war. Since Ning Xuema won the battle, she rewarded everyone in her alliance. Therefore, Long Sai got a relatively good residence. Gu Shizhou heaved a long sigh as she listened to Long Sai. In fact, there was not much difference between heaven and the Saha world, both were full of dramas and chaos. Although the Saha world that was supervised by the Emperor Immortal looked well managed, it was full of discrimination. They did not value those who ascended. Sadly, those ascended immortals were a capable group. Thus, they could not work with the natives during the war. In addition, the Emperor Immortal joined the alliance of the substitute Divine Lord to harm the Devil Master. They even attacked the Devil Kingdom when she was in severe illness, in order to kill her and her son who was less than a year old. They lost trust from the Immortals and even caused so many injuries to the soldiers. Furthermore, the Emperor Immortal went missing. However, Gu Shijiu did not care the Emperor Immortal's whereabouts, though she did have concerns about Yun Yanli's well-being. Long Sai shook his head when Gu Shijiu asked if he could help to find his location. The Emperor Immortal did send many people to look for Yun Yanli, however, nothing was found all these years. Suddenly, Long Sai received an order from his superior while they were talking. He was assigned to oversee the safety of all guests as the Divine Lord, and the Devil Master was going to have a grand wedding ceremony. Chapter 1878, The military order was of absolute importance. Long Sai certainly had to obey. Thus, he quickly left after saying goodbye to Gu Shijiu. In fact, Gu Shijiu was interested in the wedding ceremony of the Divine Lord and the Devil Master. She was surprised that the deity could marry a devil. Rumor has it that the Devil Master and the Divine Lord had a very special relationship in another continent, and they even had a child. Strangely, the baby was incubated in the stone of Nuwa, and it was born from the rock. To everyone's surprise, the baby could run and speak right after he was born. It must be a miracle if the child was born in an ordinary family. However, since he was the child of the Divine Lord and the Devil Master, he must have inherited many of their strong powers. Thus, it was not beyond Gu Zijia's expectation that he was strange. The baby must be extraordinarily strong since he was the child of a deity and a devil, and also nurtured in the stone of Nuwa. Gu Shijiu was always busy every single time she was here as she had to look for her target. Although the wedding ceremony of the Divine Lord and the Devil Master was a grand event, she was not fascinated, and she did not plan to attend in the first place. However, she suddenly realized it might be a good place to find her target as many capable guests from the three realms would be invited. The wedding ceremony of the Divine Lord and the Devil Master was definitely an extravaganza. It was extremely crowded and glamorous. The wedding carriage was made from celestial flowers with pearl tassels as the accessories. As Gu Shijiu expected, all the great people from three realms were there. The event was filled with waves of laughter, and celestial petals showered everyone. Gu Shijiu was invisible in the crowd. Suddenly, she found the scene very familiar, as if someone has thrown her such a grand wedding ages ago. She seemed to have an impression that someone in a red robe was carrying his bride and hopped onto the wedding carriage as he walked out of the door. The illusion disappeared immediately as she shook her head. She often saw the illusion over the last 200 years. As usual, it was always of a couple, which no longer surprised her. On the positive side, the blurry illusion has finally become clearer now. She could now slowly see the body figure of the couple, that was considered as a huge improvement to her. Gu Shijiu was screening the guests as she walked through the crowd. There were many different people in the event, some were handsome, some were elegant. Gu Shijiu saw plenty of heads as she scanned across the hall. She rubbed her eyes and wondered if she could sense her target since there were so many people in there. She was never a fan of a crowded place, however, she had to bear with it for her mission. She slowly observed as she followed the wedding carriage. Unknowingly, she arrived at the doorstep of the Divine Lord's mansion in the ninth heaven, also known as Fantian Palace. The Fantian Palace was surrounded by auspicious energy and was blocked by countless guests. Despite searching every corner, Gu Shijiu still did not find anything. She was disappointed, to say the least. Luckily, she has gotten used to being disappointed over the last 200 years, hence, it was not a big deal to her. She did not like to stay in the crowd, so she hid in midair and watched the wedding ceremony. Suddenly, she seemed to have found something. She quickly fixed her gaze on a child. Chapter 1879, the child looked between 4 to 5 years old with a light golden robe which changed colors under the sunlight. He had a pair of big eyes with long lashes and pouty lips. He was carrying a flower basket while walking slowly as he threw some petals to the crowd. Behind him was a line of little girls in their white dress and another line of little boys in light blue robes. All these kids looked very lovely, but all of them together could not beat the one with the light golden robe. The little boy was smiling as he walked toward the newlywed couple. He was not nervous at all though so many pairs of eyes watched him. Gu Zijia's heart suddenly skipped a beat as she looked at the little boy. She had an illusion then and there. A couple was stuck in a small gap, hence, the man suddenly shrunk and the lady managed to escape as she carried him. The lady let go of the man and realized he has turned into a little boy who was less than a meter in height. The lady left after a short while but turned back again after taking a few steps. Shockingly, the little boy was growing at a rapid pace, and he smiled embarrassingly with 2 dimples on his cheeks when he noticed that the lady was looking at him. In the blink of an eye, all the images almost disappeared instantly. Interestingly enough, Gu Shizhou realized the little boy she saw in the illusion looked exactly the same as the flower boy down there. She felt her heart sink. She looked at the little boy again and realized he had a bouquet in his hand. He slowly delivered it to the bride and said, "Happy wedding, Mom." And, "Happy birthday." Gu Shizhou was stunned. She finally understood that the little boy was the legendary child of a deity and a devil, Shen Nianma. Shen Nianmo's robe was straight and tidy to the extent that no wrinkle could be found. He was standing side by side with a little baby girl who had a pair of big eyes. She was giving her blessing as well. The bride, Ning Shuema, was certainly very happy. She rubbed her son's head followed by the baby girl's after she accepted the bouquet. The baby girl was happily smiling, but Shen Nianma pursed his lips. The ceremony continued its progress as everyone was focused on the newlywed couple. On the other side, Gu Shizhou was still hiding while trying to figure out more about Shen Nianma. "I thought everyone said that the son of the deity and the devil was not even a year old. Why would he look like a 4 to a 5-year-old child?" Apparently, Shen Nianma was the leader of the group of children. All of them surrounded him after they completed their tasks. The baby girl who delivered the bouquet with Shen Nianma followed him everywhere. Out of nowhere, she gave Shen Nianma a candy. "This is for you, brother Nianma." Shen Nianma was very arrogant, and he did not even intend to take it. "I don't like candy." The baby girl did not feel embarrassed and still followed him. In envy, she said as she lifted her chin while watching the newlywed couple performing the wedding rituals, "It's good to be married. Brother Nianma, would you marry me when I grow up?" Shen Nianma slanted his head as he looked at the baby girl. He retrieved a pepper out of nowhere and gave it to the baby girl. "Do you dare to eat this?" The baby girl first looked at the red pepper and then shifted her gaze to Shen Nianma. Decisively, she grabbed the pepper and took a big bite. Chapter 1880. Apparently, the little girl choked due to the spiciness. She coughed uncontrollably, and a runny nose with tears streamed down her face. The little girl looked at Shen Nianma though she did not cry or cause a scene. "Brother Nianma, are you happy now?" Shen Nianma smiled and replied as he looked at the bubbles around the baby girl's nose. "No. You're too dirty." The girl finally burst into tears. Gu Shizhou laughed as she watched afar. What a little bad *SS. Mischievous to say the least. Gu Shizhou did not usually like children, moreover, she had something more important to do right now. Logical speaking, she should observe others. However, strangely, she could not get her eyes off Shen Nianma today. Was he too charming? Shen Nianma did not bother the baby girl who he had hurt but turned away to see his parents. Suddenly, he lifted his head and looked at the direction of Gu Shizhou as if he realized something. Certainly, he could not see anything as Gu Shizhou was invisible in the clouds. However, Gu Shizhou felt their gazes meet. She was a little anxious. The little boy's pupils were as dark as the night. She could see his clear gaze with indescribable charm. She shook her head and sighed. That's indeed the son of a deity and a devil. He has a strong aura of the combination of good and evil. Gosh, he must be a disaster to many ladies when he grows up. When she was still idling, a bouquet crashed into her embrace. She was stunned, however, she recognized it was the bride's bouquet as she took a look. She lowered her head and saw many guests were looking for the bouquet as they lifted their heads. Apparently, the newlywed couple had just thrown the bouquet. The bride must have applied too much force, hence, the bouquet flew up to the sky. Coincidentally, the bouquet crashed into her embrace. As the groom looked at her direction, she knew that he could see her. According to tradition, whoever received the hand bouquet from the bride would be the next bride. That was a good sign, hence, many wished to get it. Gu Shijiu shook her head as she looked at the bouquet. She did not think she would ever have the opportunity to be a bride. She was not interested in any man now. When she was about to move, the groom flicked his sleeve and the clouds surrounding Gu Shijiu immediately disappeared. She was exposed. Many pairs of eyes were looking at her as if they could not believe someone was watching up there. Gu Shijiu was so glad that she was wearing a light purple robe today and also covered her face with a mask. Thus, no one managed to see her real appearance. She coughed gently. "I'm just a passerby, I did not intend to compete for the hand bouquet. May I know who do you wish to give the bouquet to? I can help you to deliver it." The bride smiled. "It's just a ritual for a blessing, it belongs to you. Since you got it, it's meant to be yours. You can do whatever you want with it." Gu Shijiu shook her head. "I would not have the chance, it's best to give it to someone else. Let me throw it on your behalf and see who is the one." She flicked her hand and let go of the bouquet. Chapter 1881, countless hands rose from the bottom, all of them trying to catch the bouquet. Beyond everyone's expectations, a gust of wind blew the bouquet to the top of someone's head. Gu Shijiu looked down and was taken by surprise. The person whose head was hit by the bouquet was none other than Shen Nianma. Shen Nianma hastily swept the bouquet off his head. Enraged, he looked up and glared right at Gu Shijiu. Shen Nianma possessed limpid eyes and a face that was as exquisite as jade. He lifted a finger inside his sleeve and tried to motion a spell to topple the person who threw the bouquet down with an arc of lightning, but when he looked at Gu Shijiu again, he was frozen with shock. The person in the sky was garbed in a robe of light purple while wearing a terrifying mask that concealed his or her entire face. He could not even identify whether the person was a man or a woman. The gaze behind the mask caused him great anxiety for some reason, rendering him unable to finish the casting of his spell. Gu Shijiu coughed lightly. "Sorry," she quickly apologized before disappearing in a flash. Shen Nianma was left dumbfounded. The god of war, also known as Yi Tianli, who was standing beside him, congratulated him with a smile. "Nianma, congratulations for being blessed by the lucky star of marriage." Shen Nianma raised his eyebrows slightly and asked puzzledly, "What lucky star? Can it raise my external abilities?" Yi Tianli was speechless while everyone in the crowd laughed cheerfully. Shen Nianma looked at the bouquet that he was now holding in his hand. The flowers were still fresh and contained a hint of the faint fragrance of the person in purple just now. "Brother Nianma, can you give these flowers to Xiling? Xiling likes flowers." The little girl that Shen Nianma made cry just now gathered herself and extended to him her plump white arm. At this moment the newly wedded couple had already left, so the attention of the crowd shifted to Shen Nianma. Looking at the gestures of the little girl, they felt that both of them were cute and matched each other. Those among the crowd who were keen discerned that the little girl was the beloved daughter of Lun Yanzhenren, and he himself was a friend of the divine Lord Shinjiuli, who possessed extraordinary prowess in spellcasting. He was truly a man of great powers. Now his daughter was standing beside Shen Nianma. The two children looked like a couple together and were extremely pleasing to the eye. The crowd could not help but talk and laugh amongst themselves as they coaxed Shen Nianma to give the bouquet to her. Some that were more audacious even teased him. "Nianma, why don't you give the bouquet to Xiling and let her be your wife?" Shen Nianma feigned deafness to the crowd's teasing and put the bouquet next to his ears as he was listening to something. The crowd looked at him curiously, each wondering what he was going to do. After a moment, Shen Nianma moved the bouquet away and looked at Lu Xiling intently. "Sorry, The flowers said that they don't like you. You're too fat. Lu Xiling was embarrassed. Her face flushed with red and she broke into tears again. How was she fat? She only had a bit of baby fat on her. She was not fat. Gu Shizhou could not sleep again tonight and took another look at that box. She had possessed that box for about 200 years, but no one has been able to open it. Who was the person that she needed to meet? The figure of Shen Nianma flashed before her mind. She rubbed her eyes and felt that that child looked very familiar. He was so cute that she wanted to hug him. Chapter 1882. Could he be the person that she is looking for? It couldn't be, right? The person she is searching for is the head of the heavenly law. She could believe that the Divine Lord, Shen Jiuli, might be that person, but as for that child, even if the head of the heavenly law had 1,000 incarnations, he would not take the form of a child, right? But what if he would? She felt that there was something strange about that child. Just the thought of the incident kept her up all night, even after changing her sleeping position multiple times. Hence, Gu Shizhou decided just to put on her robe and get up. As there were too many people around the other day, her senses may have gone astray. Therefore, she decided to go exploring at night to check whether she could sense anything. As Gu Shizhou was someone who would act on impulse, she immediately set out in pursuit. Shen Nianma lived in the Fantian Palace. Gu Shizhou knew that Fantian Palace was specially located on top of the 9th layer of heaven. It was the apex of the heavens. Except for its host and a select few servants, others are unable to enter its gates. It was a heavily guarded location. The Divine Lord himself set the barriers, hence, Gu Shizhou thought that going into this place would take a lot of effort. Contrary to her expectations, she was able to enter it without any obstacles by just simple teleportation. She was shocked when she successfully entered. Was it because the host was newly wedded and the guests had not left yet? No matter the reason, at least she got in. Because she had attended the wedding ceremony in the morning, she was still quite familiar with the layout. As it was already near dawn, she was able to go undetected. In a moment, she quickly found Shen Nianmo's home. Gu Zijia's external abilities were now at a high level, and her stealth technique was the best of its kind. She felt gratified at her success in infiltrating the palace without notice but worried about the security of the place at the same time. If she could enter the place so easily, what if an enemy of the house just barged in and kidnapped their children? She suppressed that thought and put her ears to the window, closely listening. Hearing the soft sounds of breathing inside, she knew that the person inside was already deep in sleep. Being deep in sleep is good, it would make her search much easier. In a flash, she teleported into the room. The room was elegantly decorated. On the side of a curtained bed by the wall, there was a mussel with its partially open shell, revealing the rays of a pearl within it. Gu Zijia's eyes turned toward the mussel, and she inadvertently thought of her own mussel, who was training in the lower bound. As their power levels were not high enough, the mussel and Lu Wu were unable to follow her. Every time Gu Shizhou traveled to the upper bound, she would send them to the Fuzang Palace for training. The mussel in front of her had striking similarities to her own mussel. Even their color was the same. Her line of sight turned toward the curtains of the bed. The curtains were of a light blue shade and had an ink painting drawn on it, giving it a misty intrigue. The style of drawing was extremely delicate and exquisite. It was clear that Shen Nianma drew the painting on the curtains. It looks like this child has quite a talent for art. Gu Shizhou stood by the bed for a while. She then opened the curtains lightly and finally saw the child sleeping inside. His lashes were long and beautiful while his cheeks were as beautiful as jade. His tiny lips that closed gently seemed to carry a smile even in its neutral position. He carried a soft fragrance that was extremely faint, still, it reminded Gu Shizhou of something. She felt something gently tugging at her heartstrings. She looked at this child and had a sudden strange urge to caress him.